What's up, man?
Dude, what's cracking?
How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah?
I'm good. Just woke up kicking ass and taking names and haven't stopped yet.
Yeah, that's like an everyday thing for you, isn't it?
That's a good Friday when that happens.
Right on, man. Well, actually, that's the first thing I wanted to talk to you about. In your line of work, you got to hustle every day, man. Where does the drive come from?
Good question. I think anyone who's 1099 in sales has got to go hustle every day. There's a level of lead generation and calling that if you don't do, you just can't get out of the dirt. Where does the motivation come from? I've been broke and I'm never being broke again.
Yeah. I feel that. I feel that to my soul.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah, I think I'm a naturally lazy person, but when I was broke, I'd never worked harder in my entire life. And I whenever I'm feeling a little lazy, I think back and I'm like, remember that week I couldn't afford groceries? We gotta hustle.
That's not fun.
No.
Then you give kids and a kid, and there's more than just you. And when your role's to provide, I think guys in general have to produce revenue. Yeah, that's the way our world works. A little bit. Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, you have the goal of being like one of the top brokers. Yeah. From what you're saying, and that's an extra level of drive that you got to have. Do you think that's something that's just innate, or was it kind of a learned skill when you thought, these are my goals, I got to figure out how to get this drive in me? I think I came from a sports background. Yeah. And I come from very competitive blood. Yeah. I mean, my dad was a national championship in flag football, rec sports guy. That's just like the kind of environment I grew up in. So I've always been very competitive in sports. Mm-hmm. I think I hate losing more than I like winning. I love to win, but I hate to lose. Yeah. And so I think if you're going to go do anything, and if you look at the scope of your market, it's really not even that big. There's a lot of time and history people have in there, but it's not that big. Yeah. To want to go win, I think that's just kind of, I came up with that. I probably learned from probably about 3 years old on.
Fair enough. You think you're going to get that goal? That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Top broker in Oklahoma or in the whole state or country?
I think market specific first. Oklahoma. We'll
tackle the next one later.
You got to win your market first. Yeah. So it's not going to happen this year. Now that there's some big boys that have been there for a long time. We're up and coming.
And you're real focused on just industrial space. And industrial is kind of like warehouses, logistics places, manufacturing stuff. Not like retail storefronts. You don't do much of that kind of thing.
I'd say like we're not good at everything, but we're great at industrial. Yeah. So we really have an expertise, or that's all we do. Mm-hmm. We're kind of obsessive about tracking buildings and tenants and leases and who's moving where, what's available. But yeah, we're not great at everything. We're just great at industrial. We want to specialize.
Fair enough.
So,
well, a couple times in your interview, you mentioned how hard it is, and you got to work hard. Mm-hmm. You got to embrace the hard. I love the hard. I get bored, and nothing wrong with those people who just want to work the 9-to-5 gig, get that paycheck. There's something nice and comfortable about it, and there's no shame in that going after that if that's what you want. But for me, I like the hard. Mm-hmm. I have to be out there. I gotta feel like I got something on the line, and I gotta work. Otherwise, I'm lazy. I can't get myself up and going if I'm not like doing it. Do you like the hard too?
I think once you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, it's where you want to. It's where you go make it. It's like you're not gonna go. It depends your goals, right? And being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. Sales aren't for everyone. I used to think everyone could sell or everyone was capable of it, which
I'm garbage. Garbage at sales, man. I can't do it.
Some people aren't just, and I used to think I could make anyone a salesman, but you really can't. Yeah. I don't think it's for everybody.
I mean, I think I could get good if I practiced and learned from somebody like you, because it is somewhat of a learned skill. But man, that rejection, it hurts my feelings.
Painful.
It hurts my feelings.
It's ego. It gets that ego.
I know. You
got to check your ego at the door. It can be painful.
Yeah, it's awful, man. It's just awful. Well, those uncomfortable situations that I had to sell myself, and I got pretty good at selling myself in accounting world. So I have clients come in, I have to pitch my business, and I'm pretty comfortable in that. But that beginning part was just awful.
It's hard.
Those first few rejections, like I said, it kind of hurt my feelings. But for me, the only way to get comfortable in anything, even in this, I was nervous the first half a dozen times, trying to do tests and stuff like that. It's really just about repetition. Do you find the same thing? Just kind of like any sport, just repetition?
Scott. In anything in life, frequency before anything. It doesn't matter. No one was good when they started. It is frequency at anything till you get good. That's the only way to do it. And you're going to spend a lot of time being really bad.
Yeah.
The only difference is the guys that keep going.
Yeah.
You can expedite it by doing extra stuff, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's frequency.
Yeah.
It's reps. How much time under tension was there?
Yeah, you got to get your 1,000 no's before you're
there, no question. And you'll learn more by doing than like there's theorists and you can read about it, which will help and it's a must, but there is only one way to do it and it's like boots on the ground. You got to do it.
Yeah, boots on the ground. I loved when you were talking about the street MBA.
Yeah,
that's to me that's a real thing. If you want to work in high level finance in New York, you probably need a real MBA. But here in Oklahoma, a street MBA is worth just about as much to me. Anyway, when I'm hiring people,
experience. It's like you can talk about books and theory and all that, but like until you have to go sit in front of your employee who just did X, X, and X and go handle that problem. It's just a different level of you just got to do it. Yeah. And there's no right time. Like at some level, you're just gonna have to go start and figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, street knowledge, street MBA, that's a real thing.
And I think you can only get it from failure. I mean, you failed a couple times in some early businesses, and failure really teaches you more than success. That's a common saying, I'm sure. So
there was a time in my life I was like, oh, you learn more from winning than you do from losing.
Right.
My buddy Kern Fudge used to tell me. His dad said, no, you learn more from failing than you do winning. I was like, man, it's all good when it's all going good. It's when it's bad and it's so bad and it keeps being bad and coming through those times and working through failure, you really only fail if you don't try.
Yeah.
Like, other than that, it doesn't matter. Like you can, at some level, if you try hard enough for long enough, it's just, do you have the endurance to keep going or do you stop and do so? It's just like you can make it through anything if you keep pushing.
Yeah. But I feel like that's where a lot of growth comes from too. Like I learned a lot about myself and grew as like a businessman and person by fucking up. By just shitting the bed on various deals and projects, getting told no, getting called an idiot a couple times, and then you kind of figure it out.
Or get into a meeting and get punked.
Right.
And you're like, I didn't prep for this. I didn't know what meeting preparation was.
Oh man.
And you get there and get taken to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened to me twice and I said, okay. I said, all right, I'm going to read this before I go into the meeting.
Right.
I'm not sending anything unless I read it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, sales, that's really your bread and butter.
Yeah.
And to us here at Turtlesmith, that's kind of the backbone of any business. It doesn't matter what small business you are, you better have some sales chops. Do you have any recommendations on getting started, or is it just about getting out there and doing it? I read a few books and tried to learn from some sales coaches and courses and stuff like that. But really, when I found that if I made my elevator pitch solid and I knew my information, if I read the sales stuff and I read everything that I needed to and I was prepared, then I could kill it. But any tips or tricks to be a better salesman or any lessons you learned that stick with you?
Yes, I think when you read about no amount of reading will get you ready for doing, right? And so I think at some level, your first 200 calls, you'll learn more than you will any book you read.
Yeah.
Now, I think that when you are in action, when you're taking action in sales and then you're reading, these things are applicable. Like you can apply what you're learning. I think if you're just reading and not taking action, you are just entertaining yourself. And so I think at some level you just have to start, and then as you go, self-improve, which is a must. I think the guy who self-improves the most, I think ultimately wins. Yeah. I think that's what does it. So I would say you got to start, and you have to read and be aware of what's happening. My advice would be you need to do some sort of sales training every day, 15 minutes. Yeah. And go on calls. That's on top. That's just in the morning. Like whatever it is you do, I don't care. You need to do 15 minutes a day. Sales train 15 minutes a day.
What is your sales training at 15 minutes a day? Do you have any books or lessons, videos?
For sure. There's multiple sales guys. There's different level of sales guys. When I started in sales, a buddy sent me a book, Sell or Be Sold, my boy GC. Yeah. I come from the GC. I don't agree with everything he says, maybe, but I really his fundamentals I think are really good. They struck a chord with me, and I've listened to him for a long time. He's got a course I make all our guys do 3 videos a day. Mm-hmm. That's forever. Like we're just gonna do some sales training. I think best books, and everyone's got to kind of come into their own in sales. Like you can take fundamental principles, but you got to have your own voice at some point. Like I'm gonna sell different than you. And my guy is going to sell different than my other guy, and you have to take the fundamentals and put your swagger on them. I think
you got to find what works for you, because not every tactic's going to work. So.
But we do Cardone University. We do that daily. And
that guy's a good salesman.
He's a really good salesman. Jeffrey Fox, How to Be a Rainmaker. I never split the difference. Is negotiating a little different, but it's still a great book. Those would be 2 I think that were great. Sell or Be Sold, I think, is a must. Zig Ziglar, if you ever want to get into Master the Close, is always good. Brian Tracy's good. Yeah. Anyways, I would start though with those 3.
Those are great recommendations. Absolutely. Your business, you said, really relies on the door-to-door and the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
I struggled with that when I started. I thought email was going to be fine. I didn't want to put myself out there too hard. Maybe a phone call once in a while, but here at Turtlesmith, we've got a whole section on it. Door to door is really the only way to do it. Cold calling, or if you can, showing up in person is the way to go. So can you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but when you do like a door to door deal, what's the first thing you say? Just, hey, I'm Tucker. I'm here to do this, or do you got a line? There's so many
layers to that question. I think in general though, okay, so like we run the market. I've got an area. I'm the southwest part of town. I've built it. I've been through the market one time. When you make it through the market 4 or 5 times, you really get your data and intel.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about.
But in the beginning, let's just say I'm walking in for the first time. I don't know the decision maker, and I walk in the door. I think there is so many tactics, but what I end up working really well for me is when I don't know who the guy is just asking for a little bit of help. So then there's layers to that, right? There's the gatekeeper, there's an influencer, there's the guy. Then there's the guy that's local and the corporate guy. So like, there's so many layers to get to the guy who makes the call, right? But in general, what ended up working really good is I get walking in there and say, "Hey, I'm Tucker with Mercer Company." And you always have to have this not needy presence, right? Like I don't need this. I'm good, all good or not. I'm really here to identify if y'all have a need or not. Is there even something we can do right now? And if not, I'm gonna mine some data and get out. Hey, Tucker with Mercer Company. They'll usually say hello. Sometimes ask how you're doing, not always. And I'd say, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know if you could help me out or not. But do you know who I talked to about your guys' building? And it's very diffusing, right? Yeah. And usually when you ask for help from a gatekeeper, that I had a lot of success with that my first time through the market.
Yeah. You play a little dumb sometimes too.
Not dumb. I just need help. Like I need your help.
Gotcha.
I know you're the one in power. I need some help.
Yeah.
Could you help me?
Yeah.
And then that kind of like they drop their guard a little bit, and then you can kind of start working with it. Okay, great. Well, the reason I'm here is, and I have a listing, right? I just got this new listing. I work with your neighbor. Anyways, I didn't know if y'all owned or leased this building, but I wanted to come drop this off.
Getting through the gatekeeper is the tough one.
That's the magic.
I think that's an under talked about thing in business sometimes too, is finding your gatekeeper. Yeah. If you're in a business like that, you got to have somebody who's a good gatekeeper. Yeah, get the riffraff out.
And if you can't get past the gatekeeper, let's just be real. They're better at your job than yours. They're better than they got you. Like that worked. And their job is to not waste the guy's time. Yeah. That is the whole reason you hire a gatekeeper. So if getting past gatekeepers is a skill, and sometimes you're just not going to win. Like you can't, nothing's 100%. Like sometimes it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And understand, like if I'm in a market for 5 years, like I got to go talk to this person for the next 3 years. Like treat people like people.
Yeah.
Like don't matter how they respond to you, just respond with a good attitude, even if they're rude or mean or you felt offended. Like just be nice back, and like. You ultimately came in and kind of interrupted them. So, like, it's just this, like, very non-diffusing.
Yeah.
But I like to very quickly show the reason I'm here, right? Because it's usually, like, this awkward. You got 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you better.
That's an elevator pitch. You got to hit it.
Reason I'm here, yeah. Reason I'm here is, man, I just got this new listing. I always start with the neighbors. Want to come drop it off. I didn't know if you knew what was going on or just if y'all had any needs.
Yeah.
But very different than, like, I've ran the market and I know John's the guy. And it's like, hey, Jen, and I know Jenny's name. Hey, Jenny, I'm here to see John.
Yeah.
then I'll sound real important.
Yeah.
And I call that the power greeting. But
the power greeting, that's a good one. Yeah.
Very different than not knowing who the guy is. That's a way different call than I've called you 17 times, Jenny, and I still haven't got to John.
Yeah.
And then you got to be creative. Like, I brought in $5 gift cards to coffee. Hey, Jenny, was thinking about you. I want to have coffee on me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell her, I know your job's important. I know what you do. I can't talk to John unless I get through you, Jenny. Yep. And Jenny, like, I know it must be hard what you do. Everyone always wants to get to John, but I'm not here to waste his time. I work with him, and him. I just moved your neighbor over here. I just did this deal over here, and I didn't know if he saw this building over here, and he told me to stop by.
Yeah.
So
fair enough, man. That's a real good summary of that. It's a tough deal.
That's a summary. There's deeper layers.
Oh,
there's
for
so
sure.
many layers.
We could probably talk to about it for an hour.
I geek on sales. I could geek on that for a minute.
Well, to flip a little on you, and full disclosure to everybody, listen, we worked together a little bit on your last company. I did the books for stuff.
Yeah.
And your business actually taught me a lesson that you mentioned. Cash hides flaws.
Oh, God.
I thought you guys were doing great. You know, I was looking at stuff. You were blowing up. You went from 3 or 4 employees to like 40 in the time that I had met you and then started working with you. And I thought you guys were on a real track, and then the cracks started to form, and the kind of flaws in the processes started to come out, to be seen.
Yeah, everything.
What do you feel like went kind of wrong there? Like maybe not what went wrong, but what'd you learn from that experience? So just the growth was too much?
Cash hide flaws, number one, the biggest one. I think that when you're young and have a very aggressive, like, we can throw the dice, like, we get hot, we'll roll that dice. And I think when you do that, there's breadwinners and there's things that really were profitable.
Yeah.
And then you make so much profit so fast, and you got all this cash. You're like, oh, I could do it all.
Yeah.
I'm really good at sales and distribution, but then I start manufacturing, and then I get into transport. And then my overhead goes from $5,000 a month to $20,000 a month to $20,000 a month to $40,000 a month. Then you get this overhead that's so big, and your sales are so strong, and then something happens. Someone could get kicked out of your supplier could get kicked out of a lease, and you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your plug with all your inventory is gone.
Right.
And now your $500,000 a month revenue stops, and that overhead doesn't stop. Those things can happen. I think what you also learn is if your processes aren't, you got to have the right people in the right places, and sometimes your business outgrows who you're with. Yeah. And your business can get to a place where getting out of the startup and operating are very different. Like, it takes an amount of hustle, and guys that could be really good at hustling, but they might not know how to turn an invoice in. Right. And there comes to this level of tracking you have to do that some people just never grew with the business. Yeah. And you should have went your separate ways with those people.
It was tough to keep up with y'all.
It was tough to keep up. If you don't follow processes and have a system and you can't track it, then you don't know where you're bleeding cash somewhere. Yeah. And you get into things that aren't profitable, and you think you can do it all. And you have this false confidence of, we're touching it, so it's going to work.
Do y'all think that if you just would have kind of narrowed your focus, which is one thing that we highly recommend, especially for first-time business people, narrow the focus, really just conquer one aspect, you think you might have been more successful, or was it just the market kind of went south?
There were so many. We hit the market. We were the first sales guys. We hit the market so hard, so fast. We had 800 accounts. You couldn't even blink, and we got them there. We were we were selling so good at the beginning, and we got so many accounts. Then the market took a hit, and then we would get,
as you were expanding, the market
as we were expanding, and then we would, at some level, when you're the middle guy, but there's a service, and distribution solves a lot of problems for guys. There comes a point where you've gotten so many accounts for people, and you get backdoored, and they come in and say, you've been working with these sales guys, and they've been upcharging you. Yeah. And by the way, I can beat their price, and you don't need to pay that price anymore. And so you just gifted people 500 accounts. Yeah. That was those things hurt your business.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And then, but really though, is sticking with what you're good at, right? What's profitable, run it up on what's profitable. Don't go do everything. You don't have to. And if I were to do it again, we would have built the sales, sold the business so fast because we could have. Yeah. Because we were so good at sales and had so many accounts, and we didn't control our supply. We couldn't control everything, and then we just got yanked. Really, we should have built the sales team and sold it.
In that business, you worked with a lot of your friends, and I asked Wes the same question, so I'm going to ask you. We highly recommend here to not go into business with your friends. It is tough. Money can ruin relationships, but you guys still have a pretty good one, and even through a little bit of failure, everything seemed to work out okay. Was that just, I mean, there just had to be a lot of love and friendship there to make that work, but those conversations had to be tougher.
Yeah,
just with a regular business partner.
No doubt. I think tough conversations with good friends are hard. And when a startup and you're doing good, like you'll hire. Sometimes you just need a body. It's like it's going so fast and so hard. You're like, I don't care who's there. I need a body. And then for a lot of friends start because you just like it's who you know, and everyone's making money and it's all good and there's no hard times. Yeah, it's just hard. I don't know how else to answer that. It can have its own specific and unique challenges.
Fair enough.
But the real ones, the ones that like the real ones that will go to war with you and like y'all put it out there and y'all went for it. Like there's no shame in feeling like you went for it. Like, I'd rather die at that. I'd rather go balls to the wall and not make it. But I left it all out there than didn't.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, like fuck it. Like you gotta. If you don't roll the die, if you're not willing to go bet on you and go do it, then like that's just kind of how Wes is cut from that too, right?
Yeah,
that's just kind of how we are, I think, wired. So
it's kind of a high risk behavior. I'm the same way. I'm kind of
no risk. You ain't gonna get nothing.
Yeah, well, I try to risk everything as I can. You know, we're starting businesses. I've got just enough to cover everything, so hopefully I'll be okay. But does that risk kind of carry over into your personal life too? I know some of my clients who are high risk people are like risk junkies. You know, the adrenaline junkies. You ever go for any of that nonsense?
Man, I don't. I'm not. What I would say would be high. I like something really hard, physically really hard, like running a 50K. Like and maybe not a trained enough.
You can see me out there doing that. I'll be right there with you, my man.
But I don't know if I'm super risky in that manner. Other than just like I like hard fitness things. I don't know if that's risky, but
now see, I'm not at all. I'll risk my money in business and stuff like that, but I'm not like skydiving or bungee jumping or none of that nonsense.
I'm not skydiving. I'll go mountain bike riding. I'll go something like that. But
well, that high risk and being able to stomach that risk is pretty paramount, especially in your industry, especially sales guys. You know, 1099 guys, like you said, you gotta produce to eat, and so if you're not out there really hustling and risking it all, but the reward is ridiculously high. I mean, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah. When you say hustle, I think hustle in our world is prospecting. You got to be a master prospector. You've got to commit to the lead generation on such a high level that it is like there is no failing with that much lead generation. Yeah, that's really what the hustle in our game is.
Yeah, you said something. You know, if you're you can't lose if you put in the work.
Yeah,
which I thought was real interesting. Yeah, I feel that way too. If you're working, no matter what, you might not hit your top level goal, but if you're putting in the work, you're gonna at least make something.
It's coming back.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, kind of to go to a different topic, I really liked what you said about empowering the people that work for you. I think that's very under talked about when you have employees, is giving them, you know, making them feel like they have the power to make decisions and to use their brain a little rather than just sit there. When you're kind of training people, what do you talk about with them? Do you kind of let them fail on their own, or do you try to guide them through the whole process? Or
like now we're not as big. We're like SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
So a lot of what training we do, I've got an admin who's really, really good. She absolutely crushes it. My HQ really helped train her, and then really just kind of her and I being in the trenches and like going back and forth, and like she's very smart too, very talented, and works really hard. Once she got back from HQ, like me and her just kind of trial and error with us.
Yeah,
she's humming now. Like she's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
Sales guys are a long process. It's deep. It's layered.
Is it?
It's a long sales process. But I mean, I've implemented like we do mock presentations once a week. I feel like the more you invest in a sales guy, if they don't leave, and that happens too. But ultimately, you have to operate in a way like if we go our separate ways, all good. I hope our time together was profitable for both of us, and if you learned something, ultimately great, because like the company's gonna make it.
Yeah.
But with sales guys, like we do mock presentations once a week. We do objection handling. I make them do 15 minutes of Cardone U every day. I value training, especially in sales, and I track what people say. Right, so there's some tribal knowledge and some things that I feel like work better, and we can adjust off that versus like letting you go trial and error. Like once you learn the script and figure out what to say, like you need to say that word for word. After you can do that 500 times in a row, now put your swagger on it.
Man, that's some intense training.
It's intense. We train a lot.
From my standpoint, when we're doing accounting and stuff, it's not quite as in depth as the sales stuff because you can fuck up here and then we can fix it. Mm-hmm. In sales, you got to be ready to go when you're doing it. If you screw something up, you might lose a big deal. So I bet that training is a lot more involved or a lot more front loaded. Mm-hmm. For me, I show people how to do something once, and then they can ask questions the second time, and then the third time they're on their own. They better figure it out. And then I'll go review and maybe, hey, you kind of messed this up and we fix it. But that's sort of the way for us. But I never thought about sales. If you can't screw that up,
I feel like you're gonna learn you're gonna screw it up though. Well, there's no way you don't. Like,
I know.
But like, the difference is like numbers, right? Yeah. If I got numbers on a sheet, like 5 + 5 is 10. Mm-hmm. Whether you mess that up on a spreadsheet or don't know how to work a formula, that's like it's like numbers are numbers. There's complicated numbers, there's non-complicated, but there's numbers. Humans though, you ain't getting the same response. You might get the same 20.
Yeah.
But you better know how to talk to 20 different times. And then like different dynamics, different people. Like I think you can understand people. It's just very fast and dynamic and emotionally jarring.
Yeah.
If you're not an assassin.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's just, it can be a lot with many layers, and it takes a long time to get that much variety. And like there comes a time where you've seen a lot of it, and your experiences can play off each other, but it's just a lot. You're going to see a lot of stuff. And if you're not aware of if I'm not aware of what people are saying to me and what I'm saying to them, and I don't know how to tweak what I'm saying to make them say something else, then it's just a lot. It's dynamic in the beginning, for sure, when you start.
Well, on the training, one of my kind of favorite questions to ask is, when you were starting out, did you accept a lot of help? Were you open to other people telling you what to do? Zero. I knew everything when I started. I wasn't listening to anybody. I knew how to run my business better than anybody. What were your feelings on that? Did you accept help right out of the gate, or were you kind of resistant and then realized how much help you actually needed?
I've been so humbled so hard. I am an open book to good people. I think I have learned how to listen.
Yeah.
And I have learned
a valuable skill.
I have learned the hard way that I do not have all the answers.
Yeah.
And I am so open to listen.
Yeah.
I have been humbled.
Yeah. It's a skill that I think every small business owner should learn, is just how to listen, how to listen, how to ask questions, and not to feel stupid.
Who to listen to too. Like I really try to listen to people that have goals. You can take bad advice too, right? And like who you listen to, like those people at some level that I try to listen to have what I'm trying to get to, or have this experience and they've been through the ringer.
Yeah.
I don't really value theorists' opinions as much as I do the guys that have done it.
Yeah.
And so that's really, so you can listen to bad advice, but I try to listen to, like, if someone is where I'm trying to get to, I am there to learn.
Yeah.
And I will be very open about that.
Well, speaking of that, it's Jeff, right, who was kind of your mentor and stuff. I really harp on the fact that there are a lot of people like him in the world who want to help. And it seems kind of silly because he was very successful, and he kind of took you under his wing, and he didn't have to by any means. Do you ever ask him why, or know why he did it, or just it seemed like a good idea at the time for him?
I got referred to him by one of his favorite guys.
Yeah.
Not one of his good, but one of his good salesmen. Mm-hmm. One of my best friends, Turner. So I think I came in just with good energy to come in with.
Yeah.
I think also guys will invest if someone will put in energy and effort. Like, you can't coach effort. You can hold people accountable, but some level of effort is internal.
Yeah.
And I think that guys that put outrageous amounts of effort and are open and humble and are willing to learn, I think guys like that. I think high level people like that. Like, they like people who listen. They're like, man. And then if you go do what they say and like you're successful, I think it kind of compounds. So he didn't, but I put a lot of effort in, and I also did good. Like, I produced.
Right.
So
I think there's just a lot of guys out there in the world who want to be mentors, guys or gals, out there in the world who want to be mentors and want to help people. I hope to get to one day where I can help somebody else out.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I think that's like the achievement, right? Like, once you make it, then you can help somebody else.
Yeah, men, I think, inherently love to teach.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think they love it.
Well, I can't I can't not talk to you about some dance action, man. It's the most. It's. I mean, obviously there are people who do competition level dance, which is what you do. But like, I've never been around that world or talked to people and stuff. So, how'd you get into it, and where are you at with it now? Are you doing competitions?
Yeah, I'm still dancing. So how I got into it, I was in Dallas, and my mom sent me this video of these people dancing one time. I was like, what in that? I was like, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I went and I went to the studio by myself in Dallas called Studio 22, and I'd go on Tuesday nights, and they would salsa dance. And I was so terrible.
Yeah.
I did that I did it for probably like 8 months. And then I kind of stopped, and I moved back to Oklahoma City, and I was at my mom's house, and she had this woman, Amanda, who was a very good painter, and she was doing some work with my mom at her house, and she was like, oh, I teach. I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. And so then I was over there again, and she came back. She was, oh, you should come to class. And I really do teach. I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. So I came on a Wednesday night, and it was bachata. And I'm like, I don't know what bachata is.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the?
I don't know what that is either.
I don't know what this bachata is.
Yeah.
I'm like, I salsa'd once. But I went and I had a blast, and it was in a time where like there's just a lot of like changes going on, a lot of like though I felt like the world was crumbling, and I got in there. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I went for Wednesday, like 3 Wednesdays in a row, and then they're like, oh, we're doing this progressive series, and I'm like, because then I started going 2 nights a week. I started going Wednesday and Thursday.
All right.
And they're like, oh, we're doing this progressive series. I'm like, what's this progressive series? Oh, they're like, oh, if you do this, and like we teach you the fundamentals of dance.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to sign up. So I signed up for it. And then after that, like I was going like 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week. And it was, I did it for a long time, like almost, I was level 0, and then they rank it too, so you can move up. And then it kind of pissed me off because
that gets the competition juices. Yes, doesn't it, when they give you that level?
And then it pissed me off because I'm like, I'm an all-conference linebacker in college. Like I'm good at sports. I got great feet.
Yeah.
But then these people would dance around me. They would just dance me out of the gym. I'm like, there's no way these people can dance better than me. So I was like, I kind of went off the deep end, and I kept going, and then really got into bachata.
Yeah.
That was like my favorite, and then I got to, so I went from level 0, I got to level 3.
Yeah.
And then I had another buddy who's like very high level, Henry, who's I dance with now, Oroku's their team.
Yeah.
So they asked me to be on their like performance salsa team. So it's like it
is
legit? Intense. It's legit.
Yeah.
These people are intense. You don't really think of dance like, they kind of dance like, no. They go in there for 2-hour practices. Mm-hmm. Like you're I got to bring 2 changes of clothes, pair of shoes. Like you're gonna be like they go in there and practice.
Dang, man, that sounds fun though.
It's a blast, and I've appreciated the journey. I've from day one to now, it's been a long time, but it's been fun. I've gotten way better. Still have a lot to learn.
You got to get into something like that. I play golf, but it's not quite as intense as dancing. So
mentally though, what it did though is like you have to move in your feet, and you have to be so present, and it's this form of like dancing. It's almost like a form of meditating, right? Like you're breathing and you're moving,
and being present,
Yeah, and I just kind of fell for it. I haven't stopped. I'm almost a year and a half in, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's something I've just learned recently for like my own mental health is how to be present. Mm-hmm. Too much when I'm at home or I'm with my partner or with friends or whatever, I'm on my phone or I'm thinking about work or I'm making to-do lists in my head and just not there.
It's hard.
So is dance and fitness, that's sort of your primary kind of self-care stuff? Have you ever done any like therapy or anything like that? I'm a big proponent. I did therapy when I was starting mine because that 2020 COVID crisis, we about went bankrupt, and I was stressed, man.
Stress.
Yeah. Does that work for you? Just fitness and dance, huh?
Fitness and dance. I'd say stress is you got to get comfortable in the stress. This is a new way of operating, so just sit there and let it hurt.
Yeah.
Stress is stress.
Fair enough, man. In anxiety and stuff like that, I hear that if you just kind of sit with it, it helps you out. So.
Yeah, but I've never went for therapy for stress. I think I've just doubled down sweating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
That's always been what has got me through the dark times where I've been like, man, this is a lot. This is heavy.
Fair enough, man.
So,
well, any other thoughts or something we missed talking about?
No, I thought it was great, man. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. We'll have all your links in the bio so that people can find you.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be super fun. And thank you so much for coming, man.
Yeah, this has been cool. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. I have no idea, but hopefully people will at least find it amusing. So.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, right on. Well, you can find us at turtlesmith.com, and we'll have all of the links and everything in the bio. So
cool.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right, appreciate it.